Bernadette Forty. I'm the co-founder of Habitat Plus.
Susan Campbell, from the Executive Director and co-founder of Habitat P.L.U.S.
We just wanted to take a little time today to tell you how this all started. First off, let me tell you that Habitat Plus provides supported housing to veterans with psychiatric disabilities who would otherwise be homeless. In the late 80s, Susan was doing some consulting in the area, and she found that most of the people she was coming across were veterans, and asked what they were doing for that, and found that they had a community residential care program where often one or two or three veterans would move into a home in the community. So we asked them what it would be like if we purchased a building and created a community of veterans who could live together and could support each other as they faced common challenges. So Susan worked really hard for a year and came up with a proposal, wrote a proposal, and we became a federally licensed VA continuing care home. And that was in 1989, right? Habitat got its nonprofit status about 8 years later, and we've been in existence for 30 years. I think the most important part to mention is that this is a living memorial to Susan's cousin, Stanley J. Egan, who was killed in action in Vietnam at age 19. Maybe you want to speak a little bit about how that affected you and your family.
Yep, I mean, I was 10, but I come from a very Italian family. The extended family lived all next door to each other. My cousin Stanley, grew up as we grew up as brothers and sisters more than cousins. And when he went into the service, my whole family, I come from a family of people in the service, so it was kind of expected. His older brother went in the service and came back, and he was okay. So as a child, I just thought he was going to go in and come back too, but that wasn't the case. Stanley stepped on a landmine. He lived for about a month in a hospital in Japan, and then he passed, and it affected me. So I always wanted to do something that would somehow acknowledge and that my cousin wouldn't be forgotten. So when I went into human services, and like Bernie said, I was coming across veteran after veteran. So it just kind of made sense to try and see if we could put something together. 30 years later, we're very proud, very happy that we did it, but it was an amazing, an enormous undertaking to do it in the time that we did it.
My biggest fear was that we would get all of these men together, and how would they get along? And let me tell you, these guys have so exceeded our hopes for them. They really do love one another, support one another. They take good care of each other. If one has a medical appointment where you need to be accompanied because you're going under anesthesia, they'll buddy up. They go away for a week at a time. They go on vacation together. They just really have become a band of brothers, and they've just exceeded our highest hopes. We really are so proud of them. And pardon?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, proud. It's very good. So, but when we started it, we got this 1847 Jacob Cohen Victorian mansion, and we replaced all the electrical and plumbing systems, and finally opened it up in 1989 so that veterans could begin living here. And we started out with 3 veterans, and now we have 14 veterans and 2 programs, 2 buildings. I'll talk about that other one in a minute. But our mission statement is to provide supportive, sober housing to psychiatrically disabled veterans who would otherwise be homeless, and to provide them with advocacy and information to access existing service systems. And the goal for program participants is to maintain stable housing. And I think we've really met that goal. And I can give you a few numbers about that in a few minutes, but when we first opened, a number of guys had stabilized, and they were like, okay, we're cured and we're gonna move on. And so we got really kind of scared about that, because as soon as you withdraw the supports that we give them, we like to have the veterans maximize and optimize their levels of independence, but we help them do that by giving them supports around things that you and I might take for granted. So we decided to buy the building next door, because we were afraid that they were going to go out and kind of, fail and then rotate and revolve in and out of the psychiatric wards as they had before. So we purchased a building next door, which was a 5-unit apartment building, and we started the Step Up Cooperative Apartment Program, and we moved 2 veterans in together and tried to pair them up with, having the complementing sets of skills, and it's gone pretty well. That program's been running for 27 years now, and we are the only sponsor in the VA's continuing community residential care program that provides that option, so we're unique in that way. And it really is such a wonderful option, because the men over there, while they get to maximize their independence, they also still have the community and the support of all the veterans that they came through this program with. So we have 10 veterans in this home, in the main residence, and in the cooperative apartment program we have 4. And we've had people graduate from that program and go on to more independence, and we've had other people that kind of aged out for medical reasons and had to go on to more medically supervised
But just an interesting point, what it's also allowed us to do is, and this has happened on a couple of different occasions, is one of the guys who was living in the apartment program developed brain cancer and had to have surgery, and there was a period of time that he really couldn't, meet the expectations of, over here the house gets cleaned by staff, the meals are cooked by staff. So he really just wasn't feeling well enough to do that. So we were able to bring him back over here instead of, him having to go to an entirely new situation or, like a hospice kind of situation. If you're going to pass, why would you want to go someplace new and have to, meet new people and have people who you don't know maybe taking care of you at your end of life? It is a pretty unique thing that we're able to do for veterans that the other programs don't.
And let me just say, the government did a study, and they found that the most effective programs for homeless and at-risk veterans were community-based nonprofits, veterans helping veterans groups. So that's us. And it's funny, because when we first started this, the whole kind of mindset of the system was transitional and temporary housing. And that really benefits a lot of people. However, this particular population needs constant supports. So we basically put in our mission statement that it would be transitional, but then we offered them permanent housing if they wanted to. And the funny part is that 20 years later, a representative from the then governor's office called us and asked us to participate on one of the governor's committees on homelessness. And he said, "You women seem to have figured out 20 years ago what we're just figuring out now." So that was kind of, reinforcing for us, because for many years we were out there saying permanent supports for this population and what's going to work. Anything else we felt like was disruptive to their lives, and that was a Band-Aid solution, and it just kept feeding the revolving door of decompensation.
And their whole life is just about their illness.
Right.
And their illness is certainly a big part of their life. And if we can help them with the supports that we offer, and just loving TLC. Sometimes, you know, a cup of tea and a hug goes a long way.
You know, we basically have a philosophy of common sense and compassion. That's what works with
We
this
want the guys to
population.
live in the least restrictive environment, and that includes medications too. You know, it's brain chemistry, and their chemistry is off. It's like a diabetic needs insulin to keep that straight. They need meds. So we're in support of that, but we don't want our guys walking around in
Chemically
fog,
restrained,
you know.
yeah. So we're advocates for that, you know,
Right.
we're strong advocates for that. And, you know, we feel that, you know, that's one of the strongest supports that we can give them is to make sure that, you know, they aren't over or under medicated.
We started the program in 1989, but we didn't start getting funding until 1995. So when we were going to start getting funding, the political people said, "Oh, you're going to get funded through the Department of Veteran Services, but they've never heard of you. You have to go in and explain to them what you do." And you know, and at the time, it was Senator Travellini who was really our biggest supporter and helped get us the funding. He said, you got to do it, make it in numbers. You have to give these people numbers. So what we did is we had 6 of the guys sign releases who had been here for a long time, had been here for an average of 10 years. And then we just literally picked one of them out of a hat and said, let's focus on this person. So we got his medical records, and what we found is in the 10 years prior to his placement at Habitat Plus, he had a total of 517 hospital days. Over the course of 10 years, that's what Bernie's saying. It's literally, you're in the hospital, you get stabilized, and then you come out, and it takes 2 months for you to decompensate, and then you're back in the hospital. That's not a good quality to life. So he had 517 hospital days in the 10 years prior to Habitat's placement, which then turned into, he passed while he was still living here. He lived here for 18 years, and he only ever had 77 hospital days over that 18-year course of time. So the numbers of those 517 days was the equivalent of $248,000, just hospital days, not about the disruption. And the 77 days was something like $40,000.
The VA Community Residential Care did a study, and they studied 83 veterans between 2008 and 2012. And we're social workers, and we'd rather have you just walk through the house and meet our guys, and I think you'll see the success there. But of course, as any small grassroots nonprofit program is, funding is always a challenge. And in 2007, the Executive Office of Health and Human Services released a report outlining the financial crisis confronting human service providers. Their findings basically illustrate a service system crumbling from poor reimbursement rates. As a result, and they studied those numbers from 1987 to 2007. So in 2008, on a unanimous roll call vote in the legislature, the acts of Chapter 57, the Acts of 2008 was passed, which was supposed to address the chronic underfunding of human service providers. Chapter 257 was passed by the legislature, and they had, in 2008, and they had till 2011 to bring the reimbursement rates up to halfway, to somehow reflect what it was actually costing to run these programs. By 2014, they had only 37% of that workforce is being paid the rates established under the court mandate. So that was, 2019, we're still nowhere near where we should be. So, it costs money to heat the places and to pay salaries and insurance and utilities and things like that. So our hope for the future is that we'll be able to access the state will actually fund this mandate instead of carrying it as an unfunded mandate. We also are building community partnerships, like with the 101st Airborne Massachusetts home-based chapter with Dick George and Laurie Christensen to get our name and our program out there so we can generate donations. We've partnered with General Electric. They've been Veterans Council has been fantastic. They've been working with us for like 6 years, and they have a volunteer weekend once a year, and they come here and they've replaced windows for us and rebuilt staircases so the veterans can, you know, ambulate safely. They're so happy because right around Christmas time, the veterans throw a Christmas party to thank all the volunteers for everything they've done for them in the past year. So again, building community partnerships. We've built community partnerships with various banks such as the Everett Cooperative Bank and Santander Bank, Bank of Eastern Bank, Bank of New England. So you know, those are the things that we have to do to try and survive. But I think that the most important thing that we do and the most enjoyable thing that we do is work with the veterans. So I think that each and every one of these guys deserves everything that we can give them. So if anybody's in the mood for donating and you want to write out a check, you can write it out to Habitat P.L.U.S.
Hi, name's Adam. I've been here, that'll be 4 years, October 29th. Biggest turnaround in my life was moving in here, October 29th. You know, it's easy to say because it's all true, but just to give you a little quick background, I had a lot of severe health issues, and that obviously led to me having to leave my job at the fire department. And I was cruising along, 8 years, getting ready for my 9th. If not, it was my 9th, about 8.5. It just, my body, I was more of a liability. That last year I was probably on sick leave or just out, period, because of, you know, the prior heart attacks, and then my rheumatoid arthritis spread to my wrist. But it was around 2012 my wheels came off. I was diagnosed with bipolar, and that's really the first time I ever heard of it. That was about 2006. Around 2012 and 13 is where everything went wrong. I kind of given up. Even though I got my knee replacements, went against all statistics, I fell into the whole drug thing, you know, because when you move into rooming houses or couch surfing, unfortunately, the cast of characters you run across, you know, don't allow for it. A lot of time I tried, because my pain got so bad and the depression was so bad, I wouldn't get the medicines I need for my physical health. And when I don't have that, my hips feel like they're being pulled like a wishbone. I'm not making excuses. Should have went to the doctors and got treated the proper way. I took the wrong way. But anyway.
So you were trying to self-medicate the
I
pain
was playing Dr. Feelgood, but I got in such depressions where I wouldn't leave a room. And I stunk, I'll be honest, it was horrible. I look back now, like, how did I get like that? The worst thing in my life that ever happened to me got me to the best thing that ever happened to me. Mm-hmm. I had got gangrene in, I think it was April or March of 2015. It's my 4-year anniversary. But in the emergency room, they said I had to go to Mass General. I'm like, I can't, because the pain was phenomenal. Like, I can't take the bottles. That's the first thing they gave me. That's how bad the pain was. They said, you're not flying. I mean, you're not driving. We're flying you. You know, the old saying is, if you're flying, you die. I just remember I seen the helicopter. Next thing you know, I'm on the operating table with all this blur. The surgical mask looking down on me, explained to me, Mr. Owen, if you survive. That made me seek out, I gotta do something different. I've done programs, I've done this or that, because without a structure, you're gonna, like someone like me, if I don't have structure or like a foundation to work out of, and that's what this place started to be, it was my foundation. Like I said, I've tried other programs, this, that, the other. They didn't work. Medication can work, but you have to do it with therapy.
That's right.
Just your therapist, and then you see a psychiatrist. And I know a lot of people complain about the VA, but I've had nothing but good for the most most part, great. Okay, I wasn't gonna come here, except it was a real nice sunny day, and I was healing at Brockton in the medical ward for 2 months and like 3 weeks, so just prior to that, because that's when I actually finally left. But I had been in a CRC elsewhere, and it was so horrible. Like, it was a cage around the kitchen. We couldn't go in the kitchen. I had to get water or nothing. The staff, you wouldn't even know anyone worked there unless it was mealtime or a medication or something like that. You wouldn't know. It was dark. It was dismal. The food, I mean, a lot of it was just those you throw in the oven and heat it up type stuff. Once in a while, they make you spaghetti and meatballs or lasagna. Once in a while, like I said, that would be a treat. People didn't have to shower. Like, I mean, I walked in my room. I shared a room, and the room was smaller than the ones up there. Those are decent size for 2 people. And I'd walk in my room, and the smell of urine would hit me in the face. There was a guy, I ain't gonna say his name, but didn't shower for a minimum of 17 days because the staff finally said so. I mean, they let him sit in his feces outside. No one would say nothing. It's like, it was just, I felt like I was in a waiting room for death. I packed my bag and left like at 4 in the morning and walked to the VA and took the shuttle to Brockton. This is how bad it was. I only had like $760 to my name, a bag of like 3 or 4 pack jeans, no plan. I had to sleep on the street for 3 weeks and wait for an opening. They brought this place up, and I came with it was Jackie. That was the first time I met her. The first thing I noticed when I walked in the kitchen was the brightness, the cleanliness. It was just totally different from that, just that. And they showed me the rooms upstairs, the room that I put dibs in. We both put dibs in as we're getting kind of going, but I mean, they interviewed us separate, and it was a nice interview. It was legit. It was like legitimate. You know, I trust right off the bat it was gonna be nothing like the other place. I mean, if you have needs, they come through here. You know, so.
So now you have a first.
They add a few pounds to you though. I got a woman.
This is Adam's room. Look at how well he made his bed. Better than me. Gee, thanks for everything, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate
It's gonna
everything you
look great.
people do. Instant 15 pounds. It is automatic.
Oh, my name's Ed Henkel,
Okay.
U.S. Army vet,
Okay.
77 to 80, then 85 to 90. I was in the Brockton VA hospital with severe depression. I was there for quite a few months dealing with that. I came here with Jackie Ruff, real nice lady, super nice lady. Was inside that house, I knew I was home, which was probably 50% of my depression was not having a place to lay my head, permanent place. I came here.
You were in this house.
I was in this house.
Mm-hmm.
I had my own room, so I had my own space. I got along great with all the other guys. And then I was introduced to the apartment dwelling. Took me what, a couple years
Yep, you've been over
to
there.
go over there. I've been over there since. I have a roommate named Nate. He's new.
You
We
guys
get along fine.
Yeah.
Ed's a really good big brother to Nate too.
The apartment's
He's helped a
fine.
lot.
I'll show you my apartment.
Let's go look at it.
We'll
Okay.
take a look at it.
Okay. So this is the apartment building.
Yep.
We got a nice big main kitchen. We do a social dinner every Friday here.
Yeah, that's pretty fastidious.
Nice.
Oh, there's not a bigger Bruins fan than this guy.
Yeah, I went to one game.
Nice.
The Stanley Cup.
Oh, the Stanley Cup. Grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Ed does, and like we said, Ed cooks all the makes all the birthday cakes. He'll make brownies and cookies. Thanks, Ed.
Bernadette's office. Make a note for self.
When we came back from the closing, when we bought this building, it was on fire.
fire.
The fire truck.
Really?
We pulled up out front in those fire trucks, and I kept saying, "Don't register the deed."